Bava Kama Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, but now we're into Zayin Amud Beis. New recording. This year's Lul Nishmas of Imoyer Menachem Ben Akiva, Rus Bas Shalom, and Sora Bas Moshe Tzila Bas Ben Zion. We are in Daf, and we are in Zayin Amud Beis in the bottom of the page. The Kovod also Bemoisoi. Chizkiya Melech was a king who, as you said, reinstated all his father. His father was Achaz. Was Achaz, yeah. Achaz was the father, right? Menashe was his son. Achaz was his father, Menashe was his son. He had a bad father, bad child, but he was an amazing guy. Chizkiya Melech was one who made a huge tshuva movement. There wasn't even one child or even a girl, a little girl, who didn't know Tumah V'Tara from Dan till Beersheba. The entire country, the entire Eretz Yisrael, everybody was Baki. He placed the Cherv in Besmedrash and said everybody has to learn Torah. Men and women, each one by the darga, they have to know what they have to know. Yeah, v'chulei, and he did a lot of good things. V'chulei, he was he actually took his father's bones and he dragged them to show bizoin to his father, and that was one of the good things he did. There were three things that he did that Chachamim agreed to him, and three things that he disagreed with him. One of the good things was his father was such a rasha that he did not deserve kavod after his death. On the other hand, Chizkiya himself, look at the Gemara, the kavod also loy b'moisoi. They gave kavod, glory to him, to Chizkiya after his death. What was the kavod they did to him after he died? Melamed sho yeshiva al kivoi. In other words, when he was nifter, after his petira, they had a yeshiva of people learning by his caver over there, right near the caver, in order to learn for Zilu Neshama. And here's one of the sources that you learn something for the Ilu Neshama of the Niftar. So thank you for reminding me about the Ilu Neshama, Jeffrey. Yeah? Yeshiva al Kivoy. Now, let's ask you a question. Are you allowed to learn, Baruch, are you allowed to learn Torah in the cemetery? Yes, no, maybe so?
There's a kola in the cemetery.
In the cemetery, in the ground?
They have a kola? No,
yeah?
It's just that side. Part of the it's not on that cabinet.
Look at Tosafos. Yeah. Says Tosafos, Shoshiv Yeshiv al Kibbutz. It's the last Tosafos in the page. Lefi shiur b'Torah b'Yisrael. He actually, he was marbe. He increased Torah in Yisrael. Kedamrinan b'Chelik in Per Chelik it says Shebodku min Dan ad Beersheba. I told you from Dan till Beersheba, from north to south. Velomatzu ish v'ish tinok v'tinoikes, man, woman, boy, girl, shloyu b'kim b'tumah v'tahara. Yeah, there wasn't such a thing of one person in Eretz Yisrael who was not a baki in tumah v'tahara, the hardest halachas. Now, so that's why Mida Keneged Mida, he was a very big Torah personality. So too, the Torah was a way to be mechabedim, not to put laurels or a wreath on his kever, but to learn Torah. There's a question here about learning Torah over the kever. Ve'lo kivoy mamish. He wasn't mamish by the kever, not right there. Ela berichuk arba amos. They stayed 4 amos away from the kever, and that's when they established the kollel, the yeshiva. The leika loig larash, because there's no lag larash. What's lag larash? The Gemara in Shab, the Gemara in Brochus, the beginning of 3rd Perek, Daf Yud Ches over there, Amud Beis Yud Ches. The Gemara discusses the fact that when you come to Beis Akbaras, don't be loeg larash, don't mock the poor one. The poor one is a dead guy or woman. Yeah, the dead miskini, why are they poor? Because they can't do mitzvahs anymore. The neshama is in Gan Eden, but the body is here, whatever the connection to the neshama, the nefesh is over here, and they can't do any mitzvahs. You come to them, and you wear your tzitzis out, or you learn Torah, that's making fun of them. Yeah, it's like some people, flash the money in front of a poor person. Your friend can't afford a holiday, not even in a Verstunken apartment in Netanya, and you tell me, I'm going to Hawaii and to the Caribbean. That's not nice. Yeah, that's in Olam Hazeh. Don't flaunt it. Don't show you're rich in front of your friend who's poor. Olam Hazeh would care about shtuyot like the cruise to the Caribbean if you can afford it. But the real emes is mitzvahs. When it comes to mitzvahs, you don't cause jealousy to the mesim, making them feel bad for not being able to make mitzvahs, even though they're potter from the mitzvahs because they're dead, but it still hurts them. Very interesting. So therefore, to learn Torah right with the kever would hurt his feelings. Of Chizkiya. Yiddishkeit believes a lot in dead people's rights. A lot of rights today, dead people's rights. We have to fight for that. Nobody else would fight for the dead. Yeah. So Mimela, we say that if you want to learn Torah in his memory, that's very good. But you have to learn Torah, daladamis away. Not to write with the kever. Same thing with bearing tzitzis, either daladamis or within the cemetery confinement, within the walls of the cemetery, it's loig larash, v'chule v'chule. But the yeshiva should be in his memory. By the way, when you guard a mace, I think you're allowed to say Tilim, and they do because that's in honor of the mace. Some say, I don't know if everyone agrees to this Tosfos, because if it's in his memory, then some people say that's not making fun of him, it's helping him. When you wear tzitzis, it has nothing to do with the mace. The tzitzis, it's not nice. Why are you causing jealousy? Yeah, why are you licking your lollipop on the other friend that doesn't have a lollipop? That's not nice. If it's in his honor, maybe there's no issue of loig l'rash, right? That's another approach than Tosfos is. What? And you used to be a showman, what are you telling us? No, and? Right. You stay out of the room, that's like Tosfos Udaladamas. You followed Shittas Tosfos, very good. Rabbi Nosson and Rabbanon have a machlokas regarding how long did this yeshiva take place. This yeshiva was established for a year, 2 years, 100 years? No, not that long. Chad Omar Shloisha, one of them said 3 days. Chad Omar Shiva, one of them said 7 days. One of them said V'amri la Shloishim, and there's another opinion altogether, not Rabbi Nosson, not Rabbanon, Amri lo. What's Amri lo? A whole third different opinion, and they say Shloishim, which we can obviously relate to. The first 3 days of the Avelus are lebechi. There are stronger Avelus in the first 3 days, and also the grandchildren have to keep Avelus in front of the parents if the parents are Avelim and they live in the same house. So the grandchildren the first 3 days also have to keep some things in honor of the parents who are Avelim. That's the first 3 days. The last 4 days is still Shiva, but a bit lighter. And afterwards you have the Shloishim. Shloishim is the Shloishim. And therefore here we see a lot of sources to what we do today. So of course it's always good to increase more and more in Schusim, but the more intense time is Dafka the Shiva Shloishim. That's why you also have people learning Mishnayos, right? In memory of loved ones. The Shloishim, right? Shiva, Shloishim, v'chulei. Here we have a makor for that from Chizkiyahu. Tono Abonon. The Kovod also Lebemoisa, here comes another different shot about Kovod, yeah. And what does it say there? The Kovod also Lebemoisa is the Chizkiya Melech Yehuda, Shiotze Lefonov Shloishim Veshisha Elef. 36,000 people attended his Levaya, Chalutze Kosef, and they were all bare-shouldered, meaning what? What do you mean they're bare shoulders? Meaning they did Kriya exactly. Diva Rabiuda says Rabiuda, 36,000 people were so sad that they were at his Levaya, and it says when a big Talmid Chacham dies, you have to do Kriya, just like you do over one's parents. Lo Aleinu, may we live long. Yeah, but the Kriya over an Adam Gadol is also a choshev thing as of itself. So you had 36,000 people in his Levaya. Today it's not so much. Today we have many more. But back then, I think there are less people, yeah? So 36,000 people, says Rabbi Yehuda, let the Gemara talk for a few minutes. Rabbi Yehuda says Tosfos something very, very cute. Look at the top Tosfos. Today's our day for Tosfos. Shloishim Shisha Elef says Tosfos, Loi begimatria achi avi. It says, Kovod osu Loi b'moi. So what's Loi? 36, Lamidvov. That's why he had 36,000 people. And also Lamidvov Tzadikim, we know, is connected to that. Loi, okay, that's Rabbi Yehuda. Yes, quick, boss.
Say that there were only 36,000.
There were 36 with the crew. Very nice. I hear what you're saying. Very nice. Nice note. Actually, nice comment. Well, your colleague from the peanut gallery says that 36,000 were there, and they felt so close to him, like a father, and they tore their clothes. Chalutze Kosef. They had Kriya, but could be had 2 million over there, but not all Chalutze Kosef. Out of the people at the Levaya, there were 36,000. They were Chalutze Kosef. They did Kriya, and the rest were also weeping and crying, but not mamish as well. Very nice idea. That's Rabbi Yehuda. By the way, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia, many times if they argue when it comes to Aggadah. Also in the Sefer Shabbos, around Daf Chaf, around Daf Kuf, they're Mechalikesim. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia many times argue on Aggadah. Rabbi Nechemia, Valolifne Achav also can. Shkoyach, thank you very much. Achav was not a very righteous person. Yeah, Achav, our government pales comparing to Achav. So Achav, even him too, they also had a big levaya for him, and people were sad. And Tosfos says that they did a big hesped over there, and even though the tzaddikim were happy Tosis says that the second Tosis, I'm not looking at it inside, but Tosis does say that when Achav died, the tzaddikim were happy. Ba'avoid Rashoim Rina. When the Rosho dies, everyone's happy. But, says Tosis, Avodah ve'oyav avoyim espidin oisoi. Those who loved him and those who served him, they did a hesped, a secular hesped, reform hesped. Yeah, they had their own hesped they did. But Lamaisa, just to have a big levaya, that is of itself doesn't show that alone doesn't show. We don't buy numbers. We don't go by numbers. Big number 36. The Rosh also had 36,000, or I don't know, Dafka 36. The Rosh also had a big levaya. Everyone came with their, I don't know, with their shtriot. Yeah. So Mimela, what's the big deal? Says Rabbi Nechemia. Ella, therefore, Rabbi Nechemia has a different shot. You know what the real covet is? Shenichu Sefer Torah al mitosoi. Yeah. They placed the Sefer Torah on the mita, on his deathbed after he died, on whatever it is, like a stretcher. There was a mita where he died, and they placed the Sefer Torah there next to him, and they said, Him, Chizkiya, was Mekayim. Yeah, he actually fulfilled what's written over here. Him and the Sefer Torah are equal in the same level, and he was Mekayim, what's written over here. That's real covered for Chizkiya, which you definitely can't say about Achav. About Achav, you can say the other way. Yeah, but Chizkiya's Mekayim everything. They placed the Sefer Torah next to him. Tosfos time. Today's my day for Tosfos. Ela she'anichu. You're not allowed to talk without. My teacher Kitadala told me he was before you. But Tosfos is before, and then you guys come and you talk too. Says Tosfos, Ela she'anichu Sefer Torah mitosoi. Da'afal gav the Perek Basel the Madkotin the Bavuna Mashma the also lasos ken. You're not allowed to do that. How can you place the Sefer Torah to be at the same level on the deathbed of a person? Should also leishal gavmita she'Sefer Torah menachas alel. The Sefer Torah is on a bed, and people back then would sit on beds more than today because bed would also be like like this couch that people would sit on to eat. Yeah, rich people would sit and would like lie on couches in order to eat, like the Caesars and rich people. In any event, you're not allowed to sit on a chair, on a bench. That's very nogia. You have a bench, and on the bench you have the Sefer Torah. Of course, you can't sit next to it, and that applies also to Sidurim, Chumoshim, Mishnais. Yeah, people sometimes don't see that. They step on the table in order to reach the Mazgan, and there is a book on the same table. I cringe when I see it. You have to run and take away the sefer or the person. One of them has to get off. Yeah. So now, how can you do that? With all due respect to Chizkiya, how can you put a Sefer Torah next to Chizkiya? That's a bizayon. That's being disgraceful for the Sefer Torah. But continues Tosis, we'll come and be complete at the moment. It says Tosis, the last line of Tosis, Shiny Chizkiya have a godel b'torah v'sim tovim b'yoyser. Wow, Chizkiya was so great, unbelievably mega tzaddik in Torah v'sim tovim that to place the Sefer Torah next to him is not considered to be bizayon and a disgrace for the Sefer Torah. Wow. Get that? In other words, for you and I and whoever to sit next to the Sefer Torah is bizayon and should get out of there in half a millisecond. But if Chizkiya HaMelech, he was such a tzaddik that for him that was the right thing to do, and it was not even bizayon for the Sefer Torah. Yes, third in line. Yes, Baruch. Yitzchak sits next to me. He manages to whisper in my ear. Yeah, I'm listening. Weiter. Okay. Frag the Gemara, says the Gemara, we also do that. What's the big deal? You say, Chizkiya is a big tzaddik. We do that too, to lots of people, so it's not something special just for him. We also take the Sefer Torah and we place it by the mace. Answers the Gemara, no. Apukim apkinan, we take the Sefer Torah out, yeah, but anuchi lo manchinan, we don't actually place it next to the mace, which is similar to what you're saying. Today, as Baruch noted, today we bring the person, who's a choshev person, near the Sefer Torah, meaning into the shul, inside. Yeah, but back then they would take the Sefer Torah to the levaya of the great person and just have it there, but not have it lying next to the mace. Or another alternative there, it's the difference between Chizkiya and us. Anuchi nami manchinan. we do place the Sefer Torah. According to this opinion, yes, if there's an Odom Godel who's Niftar, we place the Sefer Torah next to him, and that's okay. However, Kiyem Loi Amrinan. We don't say the word Kiyem, we don't say that line. Kiyem Zeh Mashikosu Bezeh. What did they do with Chizkiya? Two things. First of all, they said they placed the Sefer Torah next to him. And secondly, what did they do? They said the statement, he was Mekayim. He actually fulfilled each and every word in the Sefer Torah. It was a copy and paste. What's here is here. Wow, that we don't say. There are no other people in today's generation where you can actually say that about. Amar Rabbi Bava Kama, now comes Rabbi Bava Kama with a story that teaches us something. Yeah, and he says like this. Hava azilna ba'adei Rabbi Yochanan. I once went to Rabbi Yochanan, L'mi shal shmaita, and I wanted to ask him a question, and soon we'll see how it's connected to us. Ki hava ayil beisa kisa, yeah. He happened to be then by beisa kisa. He was about to enter beisa kisa, okay. V'hava ba'ina minei milsa, and I wanted to ask him something after he left the toilet. I asked him a question. Loi pashitlan. He didn't answer us, didn't give us an answer. Ad demashi yodei, until he washed his hands first. Umanach tefillin. Yeah, it was maniach tefillin. Umevorech. He made a bracha on the tefillin. Interesting. Sounds like the bracha is right after the tefillin. Umevorech on the tefillin. And then vadar omar lan. And then he told us. What did he tell us? Afilu kiyem amrinan limed lo amrinan. Interesting. In other words, the question was about our sugya. What is it exactly that the difference between Chizkiya and us? Now comes Rabbi Bava Kama asking Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan gave him an answer after he practiced all the proper things to do, the Negelwasser and the tefillin and everything. And then he told us, you'll soon see how the story is connected to the answer, Kiem amrinan, limed lo amrinan. What does that mean? Nowadays, we may say on a person, Kiem zeh mashikosu bezeh. Yes. In other words, we say, Rav, very, very big Rav, we can say like Chizkiya. I'm not saying Aloch Lamaisa. I've heard vaguely, I have very vague memory of, yes, of people of previous generations where they did that. They said, Kiem zeh mashikosu bezeh. I think they said about very, very big Dolim, you can say like Chizkiya about him. To say that he fulfilled what's in the Torah, you can say about an Adam Godol. But limed lo yamrinan, to say that he taught it to others, that everything he taught, that we don't say. In other words, we're trying to look for the difference between Chizkiya, where there's a special pasuk. What's the pasuk? Loi. Kavod Godol also loi b'moisoi. Kavod also loi b'moisoi. What's the special kavod is it to Chizkiya and to nobody else in the world? What is that? Either placing the Sefer Torah, that's one opinion, or saying Kiyem zeh mashikosu bezeh, which other people, you don't make that statement. Nobody can really boast that he did everything. And the third answer is that by Chizkiya, they didn't say Kiyem, they said limed. When there's a big Rav who's niftar, big tzaddik, you can say Kiyem zeh mashikosu bezeh. That's not unique for Chizkiya, according to this opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. The unique thing about Chizkiya, he's the only one that you can say limed. Before we continue to the next question of the Gemara, to do with what I'm saying now, we can relate to that very well. Who is number one Torah teacher in the world? Second to none, Chizkiya. What? After Moshe. Okay, you got me there. You pulled my leg. Very good. But Lamaisa, let's say since Moshe Rabbeinu, the one who taught Torah to everybody, and I would say the manner is by Moshe, started with people who were carte blanche. Moshe Rabbeinu was clean slate. People were not Chiloni, they just didn't know anything. Chizkiya was machzir b'tshuva the entire nation. He had the biggest kiruv movement in the world. Can you imagine something like Yesher Torah or Sameach in the Brut, all in one, and they teach everybody Torah? Unfortunately, later, not everyone kept to that with the new kingdom, the new Mamshala, later on, of Menashe. But Chizkiya was the biggest Torah teacher in the world. So on him you can say, Limed zeh mashikosu bezeh. But on other people you can't say that. That's the current answer. Now we see that as Rabbi Yochanan answered the question, he also showed them the proper behavior, right? You can't stop teach Torah. You wash your hands, you put on your tefillin, and then you talk in Torah, right? So you see that there's a combination here of limed and kiyem. You can't teach Torah, or the Mechal Shabbos Chas v'Shalom. Teach Torah, practice what you preach. You have to teach and be mekayim what you do, which gets us to the next sugya, okay? What do you say? Why didn't they wait? What do you mean? Why did they ask him right away when he came out, let's say? They wanted to know the Torah. It was so urgent for them. People who love Torah just can't wait. Very good. Weiter. Zog the Gemara, frag the Gemara. The line starts with the word Kiyem. Yeah. Frag the Gemara, V'omar Mar, God limud Torah. It says, yeah, in the Gemara somewhere else, God limud Torah, learning Torah is great. Shalimud mevi l'idei ma'aseh. I think it's in Kiddushin. Learning brings you into Maisa. Wait a second. The Gemara asks the following question. You're telling me now that Chizkiya, that taught Torah, was greater than people who were Mekayim Torah, those who actually fulfill the mitzvahs. Is that so? The whole purpose of learning is in order to be Mekayim. God limud Torah, to learn is greater, yeah, to learn is greater than to teach, because learning brings you into Maisa. When you learn something, then you learn, you know what to do. So why are you telling me that Chizkiya is greater? Because we taught others. Maybe a tzaddik who's very, very careful and meticulous in mitzvahs is greater than Chizkiya. Because I would say that to be mekayim the mitzvahs to the best of your ability is greater than learning or teaching. And the Havamina, learning and teaching is the same. You have two sections, Torah and mitzvahs. I would say Torah is a way to know what to do. You learn the Mishnah Berurah in order to learn what to do to be Mekayim. The Torah gets you to Maisa. And now you're telling me that Chizkiya taught Torah is greater than one who's Mekayim Torah himself very carefully? Answers the Gemara, Loi Kasha. No, it's not difficult. Ho lemigma, ho le'agmuri. Oh, depends. Depends if it's to teach others or to learn. Get that? Yeah, let's look at Rashi here. Rashi says the follows, yeah? Lemigma, look at Rashi Lemigma. Very, very key Rashi here. Lemigma, le'atzmoi ma'aseh odif. If you only teach yourself, meaning you learn, then the ma'aseh is better. Ma'aseh is more choshuv. Yeah, the ma'aseh is more important because you learn in order to be mekayim. However, aval le'agmuri achrini, to teach others, not yourself, odif mi ma'aseh. That's better than doing things yourself. Not chas v'shalom that you were not mekayim mitzvah chiloni. The idea is that to teach to others is greater than a person who's mekayim without teaching others. Meaning that to teach others, Hilkach says Rashi, limed lo amrinan. We don't say limed about other people or not Chizkiya. Nobody can say that you reach the level of Chizkiya in teaching. Let's summarize. The best level is to teach others. To teach others, that's the best, and that's Chizkiya. In that he was second to none. He was Torah teacher number one. Nobody else can compete with that. To be a Torah teacher and really teach the masses, mekar of them, that's the number one thing. After that comes a person who learns in order to be Mekayim. The person learns in order to be Mekayim, yeah, then we say that the learning is choshuv because it gets you to do the Maisa. But the Maisa is more choshuv than the learning. Now, the truth is that to say that mitzvahs are more important than Torah is very, very controversial. And Tosfos right over here says the opinion in Kiddushin that says just the other way around, that to learn is more choshev than to be mekayim the mitzvahs, and really it's a whole story. I'll tell you in general, if you look in the Baal Tanya, and you look in Nefesh HaChaim, and you look in the Gri Chaver, and you look in many places, they tell you that conceptually, spiritually, learning Torah is the most important mitzvah more than any other mitzvah. Because learning Torah, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, Torah relates to Hashem's mind, while the mitzvahs relate to Hashem's body, whatever that means. Ein lo guf, but in some very high sphere. When you learn Torah, you are connecting to Hashem's mindset, and the Torah is what creates the world. When you learn Torah, you know what happens when you learn Torah? Hashem is learning with you, and Hashem is building new worlds in Shamayim. There's Shmei Shamayim, there's heavens over heavens, there are new worlds that are being created with each and every new word of Torah. And that doesn't happen with mitzvahs. Mitzvahs relate to a lower level in Shamayim. And Torah relates to the highest level in Shamayim and creates new Shamayim, HaShamayim HaChadoshim. What Shamayim HaChadoshim? The kilu higher and higher, endless. Like the expansion theory in science, so this is a spiritual expansion theory. It's not a theory, it's reality. It's like the world is expanding and building and being created again and again. That's only through learning Torah, not through other things. However, on the other hand, of course, you can't be mekayim the mitzvahs without, well, you can't just learn Torah can't learn about Hilchas Pesach like I've heard about some university professor. You would learn about Pesach philosophy while he's eating a sandwich in Pesach. You cannot do that. Yeah, that's Yesh Gvul. In other words, you have to bring the Torah, which is very, very spiritual, to our limited, limited, small, minimized world. And that's why you have mitzvahs. That's what it says, Ner mitzvah v'Torah o. Listen to the words. Ner mitzvah. The mitzvah is like a candle. What's a candle back then? Like a lantern. Something like this, or like the Ner Neshama, the glass, the Kli. But the light is Torah. Who's more important than the candle, the flame or the actual wax or the paraffin? Depends what. Obviously, the goal is the flame. The flame, but the flame is really what you want. The candle that's out won't really help you much. On the other hand, the flame has to catch onto something physical, because otherwise the flame just won't be there. The same thing exactly is with Torah. And their mitzvah with Torah, really, Torah is more important. Elamai, Torah in our world, which is so physical, how could Torah exist? It has to catch onto something physical, which is our body and our money and the bull and the cow and the pit bull and the chula and the lion who eats and devours. So the Maisa, all these things are a way for the Torah, who's like a flame, who's all up there in the air, but is more choshuv. How is that being practiced? How is that being contained? It has to be contained through mitzvahs. I'm not sure who's first here. Would you give Alan the chance, Jeffrey, maybe? Say something. So this says, if a person doesn't learn, he won't know how to fulfill. There's no such thing of a person Mekayim without learning. Learning, you can learn and not be Mekayim, and that's pretty bad. He's a learned person, but doesn't fulfill what he knows. He doesn't practice what he preaches. But to be Mekayim, how can you be Mekayim without learning? You don't know how to do the mitzvahs and not Mekayim. Loi amoritz chosid. And it says in Mishnah, it's the worst kind of shochen is what? Is an Amoritz. Don't be the neighbor of an Amoritz who thinks he's frum. He does all the wrong things and he's full of frumkeit and tzidkis. Yeah, and he does what he's doing. That's the worst. If he's a Rasha, you know to stay away. If he's a Talmid Chacham, you're able to learn from. But the guy who's full into all the, he's just full of shtiyot and he thinks he's doing the right frum things without asking a Rav, without learning, that's the worst type. And you can learn from him the mistakes. So, Enochinami, you're right. Nachon, you have to learn in order to be Mekayim. True. Yes, Jeffrey. Thank you for waiting. Yeah, this sure gives me a lot of chiyus. I admit, Nachon, Baruch Hashem, thank you all for listening to me, including the jokes, everything, 4th of July. Weiter. Okay. My dichtiv, what does it mean when it says, Ashrechem zorei al kol mayim? Yeah, Ashrechem, good for you, happy are you, those who zorea, those who sow, those who plant the seeds over water. You send out, you send over the feet of the shor, the chamor, the bull and the donkey. Remember that pasuk? Remember this pasuk? There was a pasuk at the beginning of the Masechta regarding that we know that Meshalech v'shilach es be'iroi, right? V'shilach es be'iroi was, Mishalche regel. Was stepping and stamping and stampeding. But now we're learning an Aggadah about it, a more friendly Aggadah. The one who deals with Torah and Gmilus Chasodim, and soon we'll see how Torah and Gmilus Chasodim are alluded to here. He'll be Zoiche, he'll merit to have the Nachla, the inheritance of Shnei Shvatim. Let's see how that works. Shnema, Ashreichem Zoirei. Yeah, good for you. Good are you. The Zorim. Zorim what? Those who sow the seeds. And Zriya el tzedakah. Zriya is tzedakah. When you give tzedakah to the right thing, you sow, you plant the seeds for future things, for good future things that will grow. Shenemar ziru lechem tzedakah litzedakah v'kitzur lefi chesed. You sow the tzedakah, and at the end you kotzer. You reap the benefits by chesed. In other words, when you sow the seeds, you help a family, you help a yeshiva. Imagine yourself the people who held the very, very choshev yeshivas that that changed the face of the world. Those who donated, unbelievable. The schar is not normal. Yeah, they changed Israel, America, even before in Europe. So there we are. The katzir is immensely great. The other part of the pasuk, you sow the seeds where? In water. What's water? That's famous. In Maim el water is always compared to Torah. Shenema hoy kol tzameh lechulemayim. Yeah, anybody that's thirsty should go to water. And what does water mean? It means the Torah. The real thirst is thirst for Torah. And by the way, the Greek Chaver says, I saw it yesterday, that all sources begin in Ruchnias and Gashmis when Am Yisrael leaves learning Torah. Yeah, that's before they become Chiloni. When a person stops learning, to whichever level, let's say he leaves Koilel, he could have stayed in Koilel with more Mesiras Nefesh in the left Koilel, or he stopped going to shiur, or he, whatever, spaces out, whatever that is, whichever level we're talking about, when you leave Torah, then it says Hashem becomes quiet. Kivyachol Hashem stops operating. Kilo Hashem says, okay, I'm not, when you learn, you're boina, you're creating more world, more shefa, you bring more simcha to the world and more binyan and more everything constructive. When you stop learning, it's Kilo Hashem says, okay, he stopped learning, I don't hear the voice of Torah anymore, I'm also being quiet. When Hashem is quiet, lo aleinu, he does bring the shefa to the world. And that's where all the bad things start. Everything starts from Bittul Torah, and then from that, the other deterioration, as it says, when you stop learning, then you slowly but surely deteriorate, and that's where all bad things start. That's where all the shtuyot begin, when you stop learning to whichever learning level you had. Refidim, Rofidem in Torah, very good, and that's all the other shtuyot started. Right, what happened in Refidim? Refidim was Amalek, of course. Oy, oy, oy. Avada, right. Refidim, Amalekam. Thank you for waiting. No, in other words, Amalek is a shkafa of, once again, Amalek is Sofek. Amalek is Limlok. Limlok is to sever the connection between us and the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's Amalek. He doesn't want us to be connected. Yeah, that's it. They want Hashem to be up there and we're down here, and that's it. We live in God. In God we trust, but we do our own thing. He's up there and we're down here, and we do godless things over here. That's the idea. That's a Amalek. It happens when you stop learning. If a person is immersed in Torah, all these ashkafis and all these shtuyot don't even talk to him. Doesn't relate to the nonsense of all the Western media and all the shtuyot. Yeah, it's against das Torah. It's against what he's connected to. He's connected to Torah, and everybody else in the media can doesn't touch him. Water's off, duck's back. That's what it is. When you stop learning, that's when the ashkafas come in, the bad ones. Yeah. Weiter. What happens to the one who does tzedakah and learns Torah? He's zoichel anachles shnei shvatim, zoichel lekila kiyosef. Now, kila means like a canopy, like what do you call it? The thing on the top of the bed to keep away the flies. A canopy, yeah. I'm not sure what that means over here. I think it means protection. Canopy, right? So I think it's like a protection, like Yosef Dichtiv, Ben Poas Yosef, Bonus Tzada Leishu. The girls, when they looked at Yosef, because he was very handsome, they would walk all around the wall of Mitzrayim in order to look at him, and he was inside the cage. He didn't look at them, except he got the note from Dina. Whole story, not from Dina, I meant from what's her name? Osnas. Yeah, my memory is bad today. So now, but shu, what's shu? Protection. What's Yosef protected from? Ein hara. Ein hara. It says mufurish in a few places, right? It says in Brachas, we saw it also in Bava Basra. If you do Torah and mitzvahs of Chesed, particularly, you're protected from Ein hara and from other things. Where does it say Yasek b'Torah binus chasadim, my friends, in Shabbos? Regarding what? When did it say you have to be oisek, be involved in Torah binus chasadim? In times of Chevle Mashiach. Before the Messiah, before Mashiach comes, it's going to be big trouble, like today. Mamish, a war of darkness against light, what's going on today. If you're involved in Torah Gemilas Chasadim, you'll be saved from that. You'll be salvaged. You'll be saved if you're with Torah Gemilas Chasadim. That's the key. People tell you, do this, do that. The Gemara already says, Torah Gemilas Chasadim. Now, what's the other Shevet? Back to the Gemara. What's the other Shevet that you're going to merit to be alike? Issachar is like a donkey of Golem, of the bones, a bony donkey. Really says Rashi, Atir benichsin. I don't know how, but Lamaisa, the Chamor, is the one who brings the money, the work, and therefore the one who's rich. If you will be Oisik b'Torah, b'Gemilas Chasadim, you'll be like Yosef, protected. You'll be like Issachar, which is like a Chamor, which is rich. And that's why it says, let me finish the Perek, Mishalche regel hashor ve'achamor. You are the one who sowed the seeds in the water tzedakah and Torah, you'll be like a bull and like a donkey. Like a bull, which is what? Which is protected. Maybe the bull is so aggressive, everyone else is scared of him, yeah? And the chamor is rich. The chamor is the one who's rich. He's the one, I know why. The bull is the one always who makes the furrows. The bull, in Ashkofa also, they say the bull is the active one. In the olden days, not in England, in Israel today, he makes the furrows in the ground. Yes, the bull in Afghanistan today. And Chamo is the one who carries. He's the one who's the transportation animal. He brings the riches home. The Chamo is the one you bring your nice, beautiful wheat, let's say, to the other town. But the Chamo, that's what Chamo is money. But he himself is passive. He already brings the riches that are ready. He's not a doer. That's why the Arabs are like a Chamo and the Europeans are like a show. The show is a hard worker, and the Chamo is the one who's more passive. He deals with the riches that already exist, like the oil, all the nice buildings the Europeans built for them. It's very, very negative today. So Bekitzer, it'll be in the good sense, it'll be like a Chamo and a show, it'll be protected and rich. Is the Amri. Others say a different kind of bracha. There's another version to the story. Oiv of Neuflin Lefonav Ki Yosef. The bracha of Yosef is that all these animals will fall in front of him. Yeah, they'll just, give in, give up, run away. Like Yosef, dichtiv, Bahem Amimi Nagach Yachdov Af Se'oretz. It says that he's like a show that has horns, which we learned about the whole Perek, and he gores together Af Se'oretz. All the other nations are like zero comparing to Yosef that gores them with his horns. As we know, Yosef is the one who always deals with Goyim. Right? Yosef is the one, like in Mitzrayim, Yosef is the one who knows how to deal with the goyim and have them under his feet. That's a real prize. In which sense is it like the Chamor V'Sachar? Wisdom. The children of Issachar would be Yoide Bina Leitim. Yoide Bina Leitim means those who knew how to calculate the calendar. And they would know a lot of Torah, even the deep part of Torah, like the months and the years, how to calculate them. L'das Mayas Yisrael, to know what Klal Yisrael should do. So according to the second version, if you do tzedakah and Torah, what do you zoicha? Your enemies will fall from you, will succumb in front of you, and you will be as rich as, and you'll be as knowledgeable as Yisachar. Okay, so that's kedai to do Torah, Gemilas Chasodim. Torah and Gemilas Chasodim. These are the two main points that we have to work on today, especially in times of Mashiach. And now we're hearing some questions, and then we're starting the second Perek. Tell all your friends. He's been waiting for a long time. You should buy a mirror. Weiter, the second Perek. Let's start the second Perek. Keitzad Regel, back to real life. Keitzad Regel Mu'edes L'Shaber. Yeah, how is the Regel Mu'edes? Excuse me, that's a question mark. How is the Regel Mu'ad? In other words, when you say that an animal walks and it's considered as regular gait of the animal, when is that called mu'ad, that it has to pay full nezek? B'derech hilucha. In other words, as the leg is walking, as it walks naturally, then it's called mu'ad. As opposed to if he does something crazy or kicking, we'll see later, that's not called regel. In other words, not every action done with a regel is regel. You tell me. It's very, 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 very easy question, yeah? What else can an animal do with a regel that's considered as keren? Kicking. Avada. Behema continues the Mishnah. Behema mu'edes na'alech kedarka u'leshaber. Behema is mu'ad. Yeah, is naturally doing that. Is notorious for what? Walking and breaking as he walks along. The Gemara is going to ask a question. What's the chiddush? We just said a second ago, a regel walking is regel. So what are you saying now? Behema. We know it's behema, not a person. Continues the Mishnah. We'll deal with the question later. Let's say he started kicking. That's shinui. Shinu, even if it's not vicious, that's shinu. It's crazy. It's not a normal way of walking to start kicking. You don't kick stam b'chavon, boom, kick as you walk. Oi, oh, here we come to a whole new sugya. Show you Tzeroros. Remember Tzeroros? Menatzin mitachas ragleo v'shibro esakeli mishalem chatzi nezek. Aha, which means Tzeroros is a whole new story, which we did mention a few times in the previous Perek. But in this Perek, it's going to be the star of the show. What does Tzeroros mean? Anybody remembers? He walks along. It's what?
When he hits things on the side.
When he walks up and kicks a pebble into a window and breaks half the money.
Close, yeah, but better.
Pebbles.
What?
Pebbles. Pebbles.
Pebble means pebble, right? Which really means what? As it walks along, it's not even gram exactly.
Okay, sorry.
The animal walks on pebbles, and as it walks on the pebble, the pebble flies as a direct result of the stepping of the animal. Then it breaks the window, right? So then we say it only pays half an ezek. It only pays half, not full, and this is like a lochel mishemisinai, and that will be discussed extensively. Don't ask now, believe me, we'll have time to discuss it a lot. Mishalem chatzin ezek. Doso ala kli v'shibatoi. Now let's say it did double trouble. It stepped on a kli and broke it mamish with its legs. V'nofal al kli v'shovroi. Double trouble, boom, boom, chain reaction. There was kli number one, boom, and from the krachts boom of the first kli, one of the, shrapnel, a small piece, boom, flew and broke another kli. On the first kli, it pays full nezek. Why? Because it is regel, mamish direct, boom, stepping. Because it is Tzeroros. Yeah, sure, yeah, clear. Last but not least, the chicken, the roosters. It's normal for roosters to walk, the big ones, they walk, and as they walk, they break smaller things as they walk. Let's say it's either dli or glil. Let's say there was something tied to his leg. To its leg, yeah, a small or a dli, a small bucket, or even anything else. Could be some kind of thread. The hadis means like dancing. It's also a word in modern Hebrew, which most Israelis don't know. Lahades is like to waddle, like to jump around, yeah? He's mahades, he's jumping in a crazy way, not in a normal way. And as he did that, it broke the kelim, mishalem chatzin ezek. Now, the dlil is tzeroros, so that's a chiddush. If the animal walks, and as it's walking, under its actual feet, nothing's happening. But as it's walking, it has that little, they used to do it in America, it used to be a very cruel thing, right? They would tie, in the olden days, they would tie like a thing to the tarnagle, and they would have to walk. So let's say it's walking with a thing tied to its leg, and that thing, a little bucket or a little something, broke the kli. So he walking, his own feet actually are not stepping on anything, but as he's walking, that sort of, side kick, the thing on the side is breaking something. That's Tzeroros. Because it's similar to walking here and the effect taking place over there. It's a bit different to the classical Tzeroros, which is boom, boom. This is walking here, and there's like a byproduct on the side that's being affected by the dlil. That's also Tzeroros. And if it's dancing, it's crazy. He's not a ballet dancer, he's a tarnagle. The tarnagle starts going crazy. I don't know, you gave it liquor to drink, I don't know why. So then it's also called Keren. And if it's Keren, then we say, or that's what I remember. Now Rashi, I can see, says differently. Rashi says, Hidus namikigon shetiz v'atzor shavos akelim. Rashi says that the Hidus is also Tzeroros because it's walking, dancing, and boom, one pebble fell away. I remember from other Rishonim, maybe I'm wrong, I have to ask the Mechavrusa or look further on, that Mehadis is Keren, but maybe I'm wrong. In any event, this Mishnah introduces to the new idea of Tzeroros. You walk over here, and it's a remote control effect. Yeah, the nezek happens over there. Even if it's direct, boom, boom, straight away, we'll still say that you pay half a nezek, not full. That's a Gzeras HaKosuv. Okay, and that's the Mishnah, and that's going to be the new topic. Thank you very much. May we be zoiche to see Mashiach very soon. Yasek v'torg milos chasodim. Thank you.